and welcome to a very special edition broadcast by the Ayn Rand Center UK. I am, as everyone can see, privileged to be in the living room with Leonard Peikoff, the world's foremost authority on objectivism. And we have today a wonderful opportunity just to catch up with Dr. Peikoff. Before I do, I just want to say to everyone who is normally watching Ayn Rand Center UK, we've been focused on international affairs, fiercely defending Israel for most of this year, people know. Today, we're going to be doing something much more lighthearted, but I do want to connect up those dots a little bit. 23 years ago, Dr. Leonard Peikoff wrote a very important essay, End States That Sponsor Terrorism. And there he urged America to focus on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their continued existence, he predicted, would be continued terrorism. In the wake of 9/11, he was, of course, exactly right. And last year, October 7th, we paid the price for not listening to Dr. Leonard Peikoff. Had we heeded his warning more than 20 years ago, October 7th might not have happened at all. But we won't be talking about anything quite so heavy. I really just wanted to catch up with Dr. Leonard Peikoff and have a casual conversation with him. The truth is, it was my fault. I really haven't kept in close contact with Leonard as I should have. My wife and I went up to see a lecture he gave on Viennese operetta recently, but that's been about it. And it's been my fault, really. It's been my fault. And so today I just want to catch up and share with you guys my catching up with my great teacher and my mentor, Leonard Peikoff. So welcome, Leonard.
Thank you.
Leonard, what have you been up to? When we spoke the other night, it sounds like you've been really busy doing important things. And could you give the audience some idea of the kind of project that you're working on?
I think they should know that you've given me these questions in advance, and my answers are not necessarily extemporaneous.
This is true. I have written all the questions out. The answers are not exactly extemporaneous, but I do want to capture the idea that we're having a conversation here as much as possible.
I'm not exactly reading. I'm looking occasionally. I think the main thing that I've been doing, at least that I'm proud of, not that the other things are not, but from the point of view of what I think is most important, is work to keep Ayn Rand's legacy untouched, uncontradicted, and undestroyed by all these people who say, oh, we agree with Ayn Rand, except it's not a closed system, or except truth can only be found if you have marijuana or whatever. And I've done some specific things. I guess this is a boast, but it's earned and it's worthwhile doing. First of all, you know what woke editing? That's a new trend since woke started, new trend in publishing. And that is where a book that's well known is gone over by some woke preacher, an intellectual or an editor or whatever somewhere, and they go over it and redo the wording that they think will be offensive to people on their side, or offensive given their ideology. So what they've done, they've actually taken Margaret Mitchell, Gone with the Wind, Agatha Christie, James Bond, and redone passages. You call it woke editing. And I'll just give you an example of the kind of thing. It's utterly bizarre. Gone with the Wind has been criticized by the woke people because it shows blacks as slaves. Of course, it's on the woke with the Civil War, so what else could she do? But, that's racism, etc. But I think absolutely the most incredible example that I've heard, and there's many, many, believe me, you can't call a bad character fat, because that's, a pejorative that many people will feel bad about. So you can't offend anybody that's within the woke preview. You can, of course, condemn, conservatives or anybody that doesn't agree with them, but you can't condemn, quote, minorities who might feel badly as they project it. So instead of calling a woman fat, we should, one editor suggested you say she is well upholstered.
Has there been any effort to do that with Ayn Rand's?
No, and I have gone, well, no, except maybe my publisher, her publisher, which is the one I deal with all the time, is Penguin. They're part of Penguin Random House, and they have a British outlet. I've heard that the British branch brings out 2 copies of Atlas Shrugged, as the author wrote it and as the woke editors think it should have been. So, I have no control over British publishers, but I do over American publishers. And they've got several of Ayn's books at Penguin, and they make a lot of money from it. So I always bring in, and I'm very friendly and nice to them and so on, but I will have to take out some of her books from them if they won't give me the particular thing I'm asking for. And I do it in a nice, friendly way. And there's actually some very nice people. If I can just sneak in a plug of all the bad things I'm going to say about Penguin. Tracy Bernstein, the head editor, is a wonderful person. Very knowledgeable, easy to work with, and finds mistakes in historical things where I got the name wrong. So from that point of view, I'd never like to work with an editor other than her. Unfortunately, with the rest of the crew, not the same. So on editing, I said I wanted from them a contract that I could legally uphold in court, signed by the top people, the top executives of Penguin, stating that they will never allow woke editing of any kind. It will have to be exactly as she said, which is, part of the original contract that when she signed is that, but now they're all overlooking this. And also no introductory apology. Woke people demand that you have some famous author or the publisher before the book saying, we didn't want to change the text, but we want to warn you. Don't be upset. There's an occasional thing because the author was old-fashioned and lived in the years when you could speak of fact. So I said, none of that. I don't want any apology and no preface to readjust them mentally. They have to read it as she wrote it, without any way of saying, oh, she doesn't really mean it fat is bad. So
you've been working on an Atlas Shrugged TV project?
Yes, there's a very significant project for Atlas Shrugged to come out as a TV series, but they're thinking of more than 1 year. They're thinking of several years. It's a very, very vast project that they have in mind. And they're now working on, I believe they're just about ready to start shooting. So it probably takes another year or so to see any result. But they have allowed me to read the script before it's shot. And they will listen to philosophic criticism. I made it clear, I'm not asking for artistic criticism. I'm not saying you didn't capture this character. That's not my expertise. I don't know that at all. But if they have somebody say something, like he thinks this latest politician who is leftist, but they wouldn't do that in the book. Say something that's out.
But that's exciting in and of itself, an Atlas Shrugged TV show.
Yeah.
A series that they expect to go on and do a more thorough job with such a big novel.
And they're thinking of it for several years. It's going to be long enough to run for 1 whole year and then for the next year. So I like the producer. I gave him a couple of comments, something he submitted to me, and he said, "We're so delighted that you commented. Your contributions are always valued." Now, I don't know if he was just trying to jolly me up as an Ayn Rand owner, but I don't think so. He's a nice guy. So I get along well with them. Oh, this is another thing that I did.
Yeah, I
They
wanted,
just brought this out.
you know, this edition, the Centennial Edition quality paperback of Atlas Shrugged, is got to be the heaviest, most unwieldy novel I've ever held in my hand. Do you think that might affect sales?
Are you kidding? I asked several friends, you know, if you saw a book like that, and I said, it's really worth reading, would you? And they respect my opinions. Are you kidding? They started to laugh. Read that. And my description of this book is it's just what a German professor from 100 years ago would have written that size. And a history of the world where he would have a discussion of the background of every person from then till now. And it's bizarrely overdone. They kept all the words, but I don't know why in the word it came out of this side. So I had to argue with Penguin again. So
It's not exactly something you can just take to the beach or on a plane or
No.
a train or something.
I'm reading and rereading it at home, and it hurts my wrists.
It hurt my wrist just to get to the heft of it was significant.
Anyway, when I say this to them, they hurt the sales. Oh no, we know publishing, etc., and so on. I told my agent, try to talk them into it. He said, "Well, they won't change their packaging." And I said, "Tell them my attitude that I'm absolutely solid on this, and I'm not open to negotiations." And about 2 weeks later, he wrote me, "They agree to redo it." So it's things like that. People who are trying to destroy, well, they're not trying to, but they're doing things that would help to destroy. I can jump in and use, you know, the prestige from her having made me her heir, and my knowledge of the inside workings of objectives, and my knowledge of Ayn Rand, and the 30 years with Ayn Rand gives me good credentials with Hollywood anyway. And they know I'll know what I'm talking about if it's ideas. So anyway, that's one of the things I'm doing, and I'm very proud of, to help in all those ways. Anything I can do to help the sales, the prestige, the spread of Ayn Rand's ideas, that's what I consider my major goal in life. And I think I'm equipped to do that in terms of understanding her philosophy.
Well, while we're on that topic,
Yeah.
have you recently made any changes in terms of protecting? Now, obviously, we hope you won't be passing for many years still to come. But on the occasion of your death, have you made newer, different plans with respect to the control over Ayn Rand's books? You indicated the factor you were Ayn Rand's
I
heir.
made plans, but not for the funeral. Okay.
No.
After the funeral, I mean, after I die, I have already created a committee of, I think, 5 senior objectivists who know the philosophy inside out and who have had, to make a point of it, some experience with actual business. So they're not just philosophy majors, you know. And I've asked Richard Ralston, who knows publishing, and who my agent really likes, to be the chairman, the head of it. And he's agreed. We've even worked out financial remuneration and everything. So people have agreed that for the money they're getting, they will be available immediately. You know, so you know they can't say, "Well, I have a class to give away the money."
So control over Ayn Rand's material that's still copyrighted to Ayn Rand and you, the control over that is not going to be in anyone in your family.
Oh, absolutely not. It's only senior, and I have to approve what they end up with.
Got it.
You know, if they were to say, and none of them would, we think that Hitler would really appreciate this. And we want, you know, permission to spread it with the SS.
Well, see, that's why having that committee after you've passed is really important. That way, Ayn
You
Rand's
know, there's a lot of people who may even be well-meaning who hurt the property by staging it their way. There was a big professional presentation in France, in Paris, on the night of January 16th, one of Ayn Rand's early plays. And the French, it was done in such a way as to have a good philosophical significance. and it was luscious. I went to Paris to see it, and she was, of course, still alive. And beautiful hall, fancy dressed people, very well acted and so on, but they left out everything that would give it philosophical. It was only a story of somebody who killed somebody and then was caught.
They kept the jury gimmick, right?
I think they kept the jury gimmick, yes. But the thing is, without the rest of it, it looked like the author couldn't, in fact, one of the criticisms was the author couldn't decide on an ending. And this was a reputable company in Paris. So you have to really research these people, you know. But you know, if somebody tells you, I've written a symphony, it'll be just like Richard Halley's, and I would like to have it played and then have Atlas Shrugged soul as part of it, so people will realize the connection. And I said, absolutely no. This is not a music academy. And unless you can give me an objective geometrical proof that the notes of this exactly correspond to the words in Ayn Rand, it's out. You know, so you get crazy things like that.
So it's very important, and I think that our audience, who are serious students of Ayn Rand, will be gratified to know that you've made plans in that regard. But as I say, that won't be for many years to come.
A few years. I'm 91 now. Over next month.
Wow, you know, you're doing a remarkable for 91. You know, I recently saw the book on pets.
Oh, I was going to mention that.
Jonathan Honig did. The pictures alone, ladies and gentlemen, are absolutely worth it. But it also has wisdom and insights from both Ayn Rand and Leonard Peikoff. Leonard Peikoff is a dog lover, and as everyone knows, Ayn Rand was a cat lover. And Jonathan Honig of Fox Business and Leonard Peikoff together wrote this amazing book. Is there anything you want to tell the audience about that?
Well, no, I think people have had a chance to see it now, but I filled in with some questions because they wanted something written. So I took some questions I've been asked in the past about dogs or cats, pets. And he just came to me with, I said, well, I didn't say that much on that subject. And he came to me with a whole manuscript. He put together all little questions into a whole bunch of things that should be discussed. Then he gave it to me, he said, I'll put your dog everywhere if you answer these questions. So, okay. And then I said, but one of the persons you have to give Kiki as my dog, the cover of the book. I don't care about Ayn's more important than I am. My dog is more important to me than her cat.
Oh,
so,
Kiki was awfully sweet, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really, you know, now that she's died,
Yeah.
I get in touch with her through the book. And I honestly goodness, it almost brings tears to my eye. I read that, forgive me. So I can't get over that I lost that dog. She was so deep in my heart.
Any other projects you want to tell us about?
No. Oh, well, if you call this a project, people were urging me to do an autobiography. And I couldn't really work up any enthusiasm because, you know, to me, an autobiography is somebody who had done something cosmic, like an Edison with electricity, or Einstein with relativity. But, you know, I'm a professor who took notes from novelists, so a retired professor too, so who would want to read about that?
You don't mind my interjecting here. I think that your work with Ayn Rand and your work on its own will be remembered even longer than some of the people that you've mentioned, and will have more historical consequence. If that autobiography project doesn't work, I myself would be happy to work on a biography of you, sir.
Oh, that would be good. I could throw in whatever prejudice I want.
Any prejudice you like, sir. Yeah.
Well, I do want to say one more about a non-existent, probably non-existent project like that I'm working on. In connection with the autobiography, I was telling people I want to cut it back. I'm not going to go through my whole childhood from elementary school on to death. So I tried to find a way to just bring out the philosophy, but not make it just a book on philosophy, still make an autobiography. And then the idea I got actually from talking to Grace's daughter, my stepdaughter, I said, "So what were you really interested about?" And she told me the point about that might make a book by itself. We're thinking of a book, not started it yet, called The Turning Point. And the whole thing would be simple. How meeting Ayn Rand changed my life and my character. Because the whole thing would be autobiography, would be me before and after. But it would all be what Ayn Rand said, what I learned from her, how even one party at her home made me question. I don't want to live in Canada. I want to be in medicine. My family bores me. In fact, I went so far when I left Ayn's home that night. I remember thinking, nothing is ever going to be the same in my life again, now that I'm there. And when I got back to the hotel to wash my hands, I remember thinking, there must be a better way to wash your hands now that I'm there. I can't wash my hands the same way. And that kept me through all my life.
Well, you may not think that your life is very interesting, but the other night you told so many delightful stories. So much about your life is actually both insightful and provides, I think, insight things, but it's also just sheer delight. Okay, I have to share with the audience one story. When you were a teenager working in Canada at a pharmacy, you told me the most delightful story about a customer who'd entered and looked a little furtive. And could you tell us that story?
Yeah, my father, who is a surgeon, used to use this drugstore to do his prescriptions. And he told them if they hired me, he would continue doing it. So it was like blackmail. So I didn't know anything about pharmacy, but they told me just work in the front of the store. And once in a while, I could do some easy prescription. And then when they had nothing for me to do, they sent me down to the basement to dust the shelves after shelves of bottles of drugs and everything. So I was kept busy, but one day I was in the front alone, where the customers come in to buy things, that kind of thing with the pharmacy and a whole store in front. And this man came in, he was looking around, he was like that, and I thought, what's the matter with him? And he came up to me and he leaned forward to the counter. He whispered, I want to know what contraceptives are. And I said, oh, he was nervous, I guess, in those days. Today, I guess they wouldn't be nervous. But so I didn't know. I just started out. So I said, Thelma, where are the Trojans? And the poor guy just I didn't realize it would be embarrassing.
Oh, that's great. Well, a little something maybe more serious. Was there ever a time when Ayn Rand got irritated at you that you particularly remember?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of, didn't you once say something about the age of consent?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
That was my biggest disgrace with her intellectual. I was at a party that year. It was the first party of hers that I was invited to. She had several other, people more significant than me. I think she wanted partly to show me off and partly for me to meet these people. So it was a very lovely party and, a lot of discussion of ideas. Not only that, I mean, people are interested in ideas and subjects come up. And one of the subjects that came up was, how do we decide objectively what should be the age when you pass from youth to maturity, where you can drive and drink and so on as an adult? And now it's 16. How do you know that's the correct one? They asked her. And people were thinking for a minute. I came up with an idea. Now I learned from this, don't ever blurt out what comes to your mind. Think it through first. But this was the first time I'd ever thought of that. So, I just blurted this out. I said, well, I think the best thing to do is get a board of psychology and take each person as a candidate. See if he passes the test or not. And if he does, at any age, he's okay. He's an adult. Well, she got very upset with it. She was angry at me. And I think partly because I disappointed her so badly in front of her friends. Also, she had thought I was an intelligent person. Now, this is what she said. She said, "You believe that the state should control all thought?" I said, "No. Why would you say that? Who is picking these psychologists? It's a government structure that you're demanding. We're talking about filling what the government should do in regard to letting it be mature versus youth. And you're going to let a group of psychologists, who's going to pick what their ideology should be? Is it going to be Freudian? Is it going to be Skinner? Who is it going to be? Is the government going to choose that? If not, who is going to choose it? So we're going to establish that one or several groups, theories of psychology are the officially valid ones. And anybody else is, one-off, as they say. He's irrelevant, he's not serious, the government doesn't include him. And so you're starting the idea that the government is a proper decider and enforcer of the correct ideas in any given field. So I never realized that. I was really embarrassed. And shows you just don't hold the whole thing in mind. The implications of that. Just, well, they're experts in deciding psychology. So I think I would be better on that now.
I suspect so.
But anyway, I finally made up for it.
Another story you told that I absolutely have to share with the audience. When I was attending NYU myself, and this was more than 40 years ago, the secretary of the philosophy department, who'd been the secretary to your PhD advisor, Professor Sidney Hook, she was still working there. And
she must be 100.
I don't know if she's still with us, but this was back in the early 1980s. And when I mentioned that I was a fan of Ayn Rand to her, she said, "Oh, yes, we've had," and she brought your name up in particular. No, she had very warm remarks about you. She was very impressed about you. Do you have any reason?
She never told me that.
But is there any reason why she might have been impressed with you?
Well, this is a story about, you have to do the PhD oral. And they tell you in advance to bring food because there's an awful lot of length of time. So you sit down and you put your lunch in front of you and you start writing. And they give you the exam and you do one question after the other. And I was writing and writing and writing. And each of the questions was very, very long. You couldn't give a synopsis. For instance, trace the influence of Thomas Aquinas from the 13th century to the present. Well, the number of things you have to cover is unbelievable. And so even if you know it all, and I knew the high point, it takes time to elaborate. You can't just say, the church did this to, upgrade their reputation. But, you have to be factual. You can't be snotty about it. And so it takes a long time to figure out all the points and then present them all in a quote objective way. So they had 15 essays in that exam of that size, of that scope. And I saw that and I said, this is ridiculous. How could they possibly expect this? And then the chairman, Sidney Hook, came in, he saw me writing furiously, and he said, "Don't write all that, I don't want to read it." So anyway, I continued writing until I finished all 15. I didn't think I did that great because it was just rush. Couldn't even edit it. So I said to Ethel, that's the secretary, I said, that's ridiculously long essay. How could you, exam, how could you possibly expect us to do that? And she said, why, 3 questions? I said, what do you mean 3 questions? There were 15. She said, oh, we're supposed to say on top, choose any 3 questions. You believe that?
You did 5 times
Yeah.
the amount of required work for the written exam.
Yeah, but many of the other students left early. And I wondered how the hell could they do that?
Well, it does show, the overkill does show that you were a diligent student. Perhaps that's why she remembered you and was impressed.
Well, you had to cram, to know everything in advance.
Right. So like the bar or something. I mean, I remember that test
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
Like a German professor.
Like you said, a German professor,
You have to
some
know
stable
everything.
scholar. Exactly. You've told me so many stories lately that have just fascinated me. But there's one that I think people will be really interested in. What do you think was your biggest mistake in handling Ayn Rand's personal property in the wake of her death?
It wasn't her books. It wasn't her writing. When she died, I was, as her heir, told to enter her apartment. They held it open for me. Go through all of her things in every room and decide what to do, because the apartment had to be emptied, I think within 2 weeks, something like that. Because they wanted the next tenant to come in. And they had to clean it and everything. So I went through, all the obvious things. And then I got to her clothes closet. And I thought, well, this will be a good candidate for giving things away, because she's not going to use any of these clothes anymore. And it never occurred to me that some of them might be valuable. So I gave away to charity 5 gowns designed by Adrian, famous Hollywood designer. And God knows what they would cost, including the fact that they were Ayn's gowns. I just was trying to get rid of everything, because the landlord was after me, the super was after me. You got to get out of here. You can't stay here forever. So it just took, I thought, these are dresses that are nice, but she's not going to wear them again. So that's the biggest mistake I made.
And for the
I bet she came back, she would kill me.
well, I know just telling my wife that story got her upset. For people who don't know, Gilbert Adrian.
That was a stupid mistake. Because I should have known, that she would wear decent, expensive clothes.
And
if I don't know design, I should have showed it to somebody else who did.
Oh, when she lived in Hollywood, Janet Gaynor and Adrian were neighbors of hers.
Right.
And Adrian, for the people who don't know, is a famous costume designer. He designed many of the costumes, for example, for Joan Crawford, many great films from the 1930s and 40s. Just look on the credit, costumes by Adrian. And wardrobe.
Because costume sounds more like Halloween.
Exactly. Gowns by, do something elevated like that. But here were actually clothes tailored to Ayn Rand, designed by Gilbert Adrian himself. That it is kind of heartbreaking, but I won't hold it against you, sir. Let me just ask you, how do you feel? How's your health these days?
Well, I'm 91, I'm going to be next month.
Yeah.
I think I'm in pretty good shape for my age. And the worst thing I have is arthritis of the cartilage in my right leg, which means my knee is always hurting, especially when I put weight on that leg. So that very much restricts what I can do, because you want to sit. And I've taken I'm still taking PT exercises, every kind of exercise. I say you have to keep moving. And I like sitting. But they say you have to keep moving. And I used to say life is motion. So they agree with that. So I have to do all that,
Well, I was
therapy. But it's not improving my knee.
Well, I was impressed the other day when you expressed an interest in learning to play pickleball.
Well, I'm trying to go into sports that the doctors will allow. I used to love tennis. I wasn't ever good at it, but I used to love it. And pickleball, I understand, is tennis for midgets.
Well, it is a sort of scaled down tennis.
So I thought that would be a good thing to try.
Yeah. Once my knee gets better, we'll learn how to play pickleball.
Okay, that's fine. You have a knee too.
Well,
but yours is not arthritis.
No. I recently injured myself falling off a ladder. I moved now from crutches to cane. I'm getting better.
I'd rather fall off a ladder than have diseased
I think me too. Good to be honest.
Wait till you get to mine.
But you know, the most important thing that's happened recently is your marriage to Grace. I find her so charming. She is just elegant, intelligent, lovely, sweet lady. How long have you known her? How did you get to know her? Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Grace is an RN. And about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I think 2020.
2020.
I was living in an apartment, in a home my own home. I was living alone. And I was starting to get the bad symptoms of being old. Most frighteningly, I was falling. And once I cracked my head on marble and I had to go to an emergency place and they had to put staples in my scalp because it was bleeding. So I thought I should have a nurse, you know. So we hired a nurse, an assistant of mine hired a nurse for me. And she said, I interview a lot of people, and this is the one that you will like. She's exactly the kind of person you would like. So, you know, that was certainly good judgment.
Well, the way you describe it, it sounds like it was kind of love at first sight.
Well, we haven't done that yet.
Oh, okay.
That was just a preparation. And so we agreed we would meet in front of my house. So I went down on the boulevard waiting for her. It wasn't very long. And then I saw a woman coming toward me. And I thought to myself, nurse can't possibly look like that. Wow. Just went off in my mind. Is she a nurse? That beautiful, that hair, the framing of her face, cascading down, beautiful figure, and such gorgeous, you know, features, you know, and her smile, and she did weren't in another world. You know?
Yeah.
So I fell for her right away. I never believed in love at first time, and I wouldn't say it was love in the deepest sense because I didn't know her, but it was love in the sense that I would want to live with that face as long as I lived.
But this was more than 4 years ago, so presumably you've had time to get to know her.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I don't want to bore you, but I have vote for Grace, which she hasn't seen it yet. We'll give it to her on our next anniversary. But she knows that it exists. An essay on what I loved about it. And there's 14 sections. That's true. And I cover everything I've seen about her that affects me emotionally. And there's so much.
She shares your love of Vietnamese opera.
Yeah, let me say, there were so many things I liked. So I started thinking how beautiful she is. And then one day I thought, I don't know if people know this, the Viennese operetta has taken over my life. It's such a central focus that I think of that when I wake up. I check right away with the computer on the new versions. It's like heart of my life right now, at least my emotional life. Well, not counting love of my wife, but you know, things that you just do with life. I thought to myself, I'd like to see what her reaction is to operetta. She did not know that I was such a big deal. So I asked her if she wanted to watch an operetta with me. And she said, sure. We had been playing games together, like Wordle. We set a competition of who is better, and how many words, and we added in and get an assist if you do something that helps the person win. We had a whole scoring system, but we did things together, and she watched the operetta, and I was always trying to get friends or people I knew who would watch an operetta because I feel that I'm the proselytizer. It's up to me to make operetta popular. It's hopeless in the United States because it's a European phenomenon. I think the fight for it. But they're all saying, oh, the plot is so stupid and phony, and all these kings and queens and czars and so on. Americans think it's just stupid. But I think it's very gripping, the stories, and the music is just puts me into ecstasy. It's so beautiful. So I watched to see, but I didn't watch so much that she could tell I was watching. I was just curious to see. And the first thing she said was, you know, that plot has got a flaw in it. She took it so seriously that she was analyzing, whereas everybody else I showed it to said, oh, that's so stupid, that plot. You know, love that has a problem and so on. This was a movie about a Tsarevich, the son of the Tsar in Russia, who had a love affair with this woman, and then it ended unhappily. And she thought, that's really bad, it shouldn't end that way. And she also liked the music. And I was really astounded. And I felt that not only is she beautiful, but she had my soul. We're the same in that fundamental way. And since then, I found we like the same music, the same, oh, we're going to the theater now. Well, we just brought a series of plays, a couple of Agatha Christie's that turned into plays, one of Moliere and so on. And we go to that and to concerts, and we like the same thing. Not every time, but she likes something, music written after 1951. Most, so.
Well, in connection with that, though, you actually earlier this year took Arthur Murray dance lessons with Grace and learned how to waltz.
Yes.
I mean, operetta, I myself associate.
Waltz is very central. I mean, I got really involved with waltz. It's a great thing to dance to. You're 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's a fun dance.
Yeah, that's great. So we went to Arthur Murray. We went for dancing in general, just for fun. But then they asked me, what's the first song you want to learn? I said, waltz. So we took a lot for waltz, and we got to the point where, you know, we weren't disgraceful. Grace is a natural. She has soul in her. She could take any instructor, you know, and say, okay, do the limbo or whatever it is. And they teach you, do step, step, step. Oh, okay. And she just does it right away. But for me, it has to be one this way, one this way, and then turn one to the right, to the left. And I have to memorize that, do it over and over. So,
well, I myself have seen a video of you dancing with the instructor there. I was privileged enough. You mastered the waltz this year at your age.
I did. I mean, I don't know that I must have mastered, but the test of it was that school was having a program with the stage, and all the students who were now advanced in dancing to watch, and we would have a chance to show our talent. So they asked me, would you appear dancing with Jill? Jill was a great teacher. And I said, well, I don't know, I'm just a beginner. And these people all know what dancing is. So I thought, and I said, I'll appear if you announce at the beginning that I'm 90. So well, then that would take the curse away, however bad it was. All the guys know
it. I think we'll have the video, and hopefully the viewers can see for themselves how gracefully you mastered the waltz.
I was so nervous before that, so frightened that I was going to get up and be a total idiot in front of all these people. But I did it. People said you did well.
You and Grace, Grace, I see you here. Why don't you come on in?
Yeah, I'm coming in. Let me introduce you.
If you could.
This is my beautiful wife.
Just say hi to the audience. You know.
Can you see her over
there? I'm not sure anyone can respond. Yeah, let's bring it.
They can't speak.
Yeah, bring it in just a little bit more, so everyone can see your beautiful face, Grace.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
In pictures, I'm always shorter than see on the screen.
Have you guys been doing entertaining? Have you had parties?
Are you kidding? We had.
Thank you, Grace.
Oh, thank you. You have to go.
I do. This
I never like it when she leaves.
I feel the same way about my wife.
is for you.
Okay. Such a wonderful. I asked Grace 3 times to marry, each 1 year apart, across 3 years here. And each time she said no. She didn't say it in the hostile way. It was pleasant, but she was clear, I do not want to marry. And I think I would be offended and so on, but I kept thinking, okay, I understand now, but I want you anyway. So I just kept, and finally, I think by the 4th time, she said,
Persistence paid off then.
well, persistent. And at that point, I had stopped being, so sick and patient.
Yeah. You suffered terrible pneumonia at one point, right?
Oh, really horrible.
Yeah, but
I
it
was
really,
in the hospital for a long time, and the result is the muscles that sustain the body, what do you call it, collapsed or whatever they did. And I couldn't balance. I couldn't stand. I couldn't stand up from sitting. I couldn't walk. So, in that period, I had to be watched by everybody. And Grace was really good. She started what she called Grace's boot camp. And every morning I had to do all the exercise that she controlled it. Now there she is, but that was reasonably good because the doctors in the hospital had told me, you'll never be what you were before. You've lost it now. And within 1 year, it all came back. And it's all thanks to her and Jay, because they united. And they gave me the most incredible exercises you ever heard. I had to lie down on the floor next to a couch, like as high as this one. And then the exercise was climb up the couch and lie down on top. Climb up the couch from lying on the floor. You have to climb up this couch. And it's not just a little short one, it's that big. So I said, that's ridiculous. I can't do that. Nobody could do that. So they said, yes, you can. Go ahead and try. So I put my hands so questioningly on this. Well, how can anybody get up there? They said, just try, climb. I climbed, and then I turned, I said, I'll need you my leg now, I can't use my hands. So I was really working my arms and my legs.
yeah.
And I did get up there. And they said, congratulations. And I've still since been able to do it. And it really works you out.
Yeah.
We had a wedding party, when we did the actual ceremony. Behind the house, we have a big yard with all the palm trees, etc. And we did it there. And we had 30 people, all close friends. And, we kissed and congratulated them, etc. And if you say, was I isolated? You asked those 30 people, I wasn't isolated. And then they came up, and congratulated us and so on. So it was a nice warm thing. Then when I turned 90, which was not too late, much later, we had a huge birthday party, same number of people. That's all we could squeeze in. And it was stylized by a lady out here called Austin Lopez, who is a wonderful person, a wonderful stylist. That's what she does. She can take an ordinary occasion and make it special by little touches here and there, like colorful balloons in the swimming floating. We had an ice sculpture that she produced, that she bought. And it's just something so different.
Right.
You look at it, and the little drops are melting, but it's still there. So everybody stood in front of me. And then she did something special to make it a birthday. She got a throne and had me sitting to blow the candles.
Perfect. I like her artistic instinct.
She's so thoughtful. I mean,
Yeah.
innovative, so original. That I'm at the point where I'm thinking we shouldn't go to a restaurant until we check with us.
Let me just check my notes here. Oh my goodness. The truth is, we've had such a lovely conversation. Um, is there anything else you'd like to add, Leonard?
Well, we out of time?
Yeah, we did. Well, we've got all the time we need.
Well, you had a question here that I prepared the answer for, but you haven't asked me.
Oh,
You said, how
I
about
did get questions
fun?
beforehand.
You said, how about fun?
Right.
One thing to love what you bring,
Right.
but you have fun with it.
Right, exactly.
You didn't ask that yet.
Well, we were covering some earlier stuff with fun, but now let's talk about fun with grace.
We want to go to Las Vegas. There's a lot of things we'd like to do in terms of travel. On top of that, we do play games. Like Wordle is I told you was a main one. And we've just found, I hope you don't misinterpret this, that we enjoy going to a casino, and they have them in California. We found one down near San Diego that we'd gone to with Jay and a couple other people at the party and played blackjack with live dealing and really enjoyed it. Last time I only lost $25. A big achievement. Anyway, that restaurant, the place has a fabulous, fabulous restaurant, even though it's just an ordinary casino. The greatest food ever. We went the other night and they said, order 4 dinners from the restaurant, from the menu, and we'll serve you all 4. And they said, no, you have to order 4 because they want to make it so spectacular that anybody will come there, and then once they're there, they'll start gambling. So we enjoyed that. We haven't done it twice, I think, a long time. But it's something for, do we have fun? We're open to something that's not just going to a movie and a restaurant. So in that way, life is always, she'll say, let's go for a drive to the beach. There's always something, there's so many gorgeous ocean trees, palm trees, with the tall, tall trunks, that it's a lovely place to live in. Big, big contrast to New York City, which is, got its own virtue. It's very lovely, very peaceful and beautiful.
You just reminded me of a story that I'm sure that the audience would love to hear.
They can still stand it. They must have all.
Oh, no. I think we've got them riveted to their seats and this discussion we're having, Dr. Peikoff.
Don't say doctor.
Well,
you know that.
Yeah, I do.
I don't like being called Dr. Peikoff because that implies, by the fact that you address me with that name, that word first, that it's of significance, that it's an achievement that I want to have recognized. So if you're in med school and you're a doctor, that's true. It's something worth doing, and you want people to know. But I don't want people to know that I am a PhD, because I think the whole thing was the phoniest program I ever went through. 10 years in grad school, I was from 54 to 64 in order to get the degree. And I learned more from Ayn Rand about technical philosophy, about classical philosophy, not just about objectivism. From meeting her maybe once a week to discuss philosophy, I would go to her and say, I'm confused by this that they presented, meeting so and so. What is the answer? And she would give me a speech right there, even if she hadn't heard of it before. And I would say to her, I remember with Charles Peirce, there was something he wrote about the development of the universe. And I thought it was senseless, and we were told to read it and respect it. So she read it, and she read the earlier part, and she said, oh, it's obvious he's talking about his psychology. And then she cleverly took sentences of his. In the beginning, it was a chaos of depersonalized matter. That was his opening sentence. And she said, he's looking at introspective. He's a chaos of depersonalized matter. So she was so clever that.
But the PhD was something you had to overcome with Ayn Rand's help.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's something you boast about.
Oh no, not only that, she used a great metaphor. I said, it's terrible to have to do that and listen to those people. And she said, you're in the concentration camp, but they have the guard, they're the guards. And if you get through them, you'll be free. So periodically I would break down, go to her and say, I just can't. I can't, it's just too awful. I can't stand it. And she would say, keep in mind, etc. and so on. She said, talk to me about the part that matters to you the most and upsets you. So I would give her Charles Peirce, whoever it was.
And Peirce, for those who don't know, is the father of American pragmatism,
Yeah.
father of the school of American pragmatism. He influenced James, who influenced Dewey, who influenced Professor Hook, his PhD advisor.
Right.
You told me another fascinating, just an amusing story, and perhaps this would be a good place to end this on an amusing story. Did you ever take a date to the Pierre Hotel? I mean,
You want that story?
yeah, well, it was so charming. The Pierre Hotel.
Interested in objections, why would they care about?
The Pierre Hotel is one of the finest, has one of the finest restaurants in Manhattan. It's one of the upscale hotels in the country, and an incredible place to take a date. Did you ever take a date to dinner at the Pierre Hotel?
Yeah. I used to cut short on meals so I could once in a rare while go to a fancy New York place. I wanted to be able to think, well, I don't just sit here and go to Washington Square Park and go to classes and then go back to my little place where I live. So I used to try, and I decided I'm going to go to the cotillion room of the Hotel Pierre. That's as high as you can get. And so I took this girl. It was a blind date. Most of my dates were blind because I had no access to women. I was talking philosophy to Ayn Rand most of the time. But so she was a kindergarten teacher teaching arithmetic. So we sat down. The waiter came and he said, we had looked at the menu and said, this is what we would like. He said, oh, don't tell me. I don't want you to pick off the menu. I want you each to tell me your favorite food in every category, entree, drink, dessert, etc. And we will make them specially for you. So I thought, wow, it really is a fancy place. They're going to, at the cotillion room at the Hotel Pierre, they're going to cook our meal. So we ordered, and we didn't have a menu to say the price, but I think cooking it, so how much could it be? So I was completely wrong about that. Then the meal was great, just what we ordered and so on. And he gave us the check. It was unbelievable. He could have been a lawyer. The check was so high. That was at a time, remember, before there were credit cards. So you had to have the money on you. So I took out all the money I had in the pocket or the wallet or whatever, including change, dimes and quarters, and she took out whatever she had in her purse. I would put the two together and counted them, and it turned out just coincidence. We had exactly the amount to cover the check, but we did not have enough money to tip the waiter. And in a place like that, you're judged by how much you tip the waiter. And so it would be a total disgrace. And also, God knows what he would do after being so nice to her. So we figured the only thing to do, we got a coach and everything in our hands. So we didn't have to bother putting them on it. We could make an instant action. And then we watched him move back and forth. And at one point, we saw him go into the kitchen and the doors closed behind him. So we ran like maniacs out the front door. We just jumped for how fast as we could, holding our folks. And we made it. He didn't change it. So, now, is that worth telling?
Well, see, it was something that wasn't in your notes that I knew. I just wanted to elicit, and it was a charming story.
Maybe you enjoy my humor more than the general public.
I think well, again, we'll just let people decide for themselves. There's been such a delightful conversation. Is there anything you'd like to add? Well, okay, I will take us onto a little more substantive area.
How long can they live? People have lives and jobs.
I think that there are people who'd find this valuable. Somehow I'm guessing that there's folks out there who find this worthwhile. maybe this will be the place we'll end. You know, Ayn Rand, people will often say she was prophetic. And of course, there was nothing magic about it. It was her ability to identify principles. And she could see way in advance an important principle emerging that looked dangerous on the horizon to her. And unfortunately, she was exactly right time and time and time again. When in a time back in the 60s, when everyone thought the environmentalist movement was, you know, just about litter in the park and smog in LA, she could see that they were anti-mind, anti-technology.
Well, her real method was she would see what's going on and then ask what philosophy sustains that. And once she knows that, she says, what kind of philosophy is it? And the kind of is what they call the degrowth movement, what they call environmentalism here, that's anti-industrial revolution. She knows where that society is going to go. So she doesn't have to really go over philosophy and say, this is an important principle. She says, what's in front of me? You know, if it's a great society, a great, you know, community, then she doesn't have any worry about it. You know, she'll just be happy about the future. But if it's the way we've been, in the 60s especially, was really bad. I think woke is probably the worst event since the 60s.
Well, and she predicted the rise of tribalism, you know, corresponding with the anti-conceptual mentality.
Right.
And people in the 21st century have seen a horribly ugly rise in racist tribalism. And drugs, you know, I know there were people even in the 60s and 70s who thought that LSD was a mode of cognition. But what is if I was to ask you, what are your concerns as you look at the 21st century? Is there anything you see that's particularly bothersome?
Woke,
Forgive me.
the Mideast, they're all, I think that whole Islam has lost any basis to respect. I mean, it shouldn't be canceled. The government has nothing to do with it if it doesn't commit war against us or against Israel. I think that's one of the leading problems today. And attacks on America, because America is bad because, you know, it's everything.
Yeah.
And these kids are not even getting the basics of mathematics or grammar, things that we had to learn inside out. They never even heard of. Some of these kids never heard of a noun, of the word noun. In grade 5 and 6, we had to diagram sentences from about grade 3. In Canada, we had this sounds chauvinistic, but I'm now American, but we had much better education in Canada. Much better.
Less affected by Dewey and progressivism.
Much more influenced by the English.
Yeah.
So we had to start French in grade 6, Latin in grade 7, and learn all the way through, and then go on in college if you can. So French because it was a bilingual country, but Latin was required, and it's a good language. I like it. Not that I know it anymore, but at one time I could, with the dictionary, I could read it. I could read Julius Caesar once, but now I don't even know his.
Gaul is divided into 4 parts.
Three or four.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong with the numbers. Maybe I'm the one with the memory issues.
Trains and parting.
There is a yes, I think you got it. Oh, well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. We've helped Leonard here long enough, and I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you found this valuable.